This is Cybert signing into Red Alert 3 on the map Infinity Isle, and welcome to the round of 4 here in the upper bracket of Gathering Storm, kicking it off on the left side. Playing the Red Allies, this is DutchArmy. Going for that airfield first. Meanwhile, playing the Empire, breaking hearts, this is GreenAlert. He's playing Red Alert, but he is named GreenAlert, and these two guys meeting here in effectively the upper bracket semi-finals. Yes, the bracket is filling in, but before we eliminate anyone else, we are going to see who advances into the upper bracket. I guess before we eliminate anyone at all is really what I should say. We're going to be seeing who advances into the upper bracket final, which, based on the top 4 who have made it through the first round, it could just be a rematch of either the qualifier lower bracket seeding match or the qualifier upper bracket seeding match. Both Oiled Erics grabbed by GreenAlert here. Now, I don't have a perfect record of these guys' history. I think between the two of them, DutchArmy does have the better game and score record overall. If they have met in tournaments, I think DutchArmy is more likely to have gotten the win over GreenAlert. But I'm not 100% sure on that, and this is GreenAlert's opportunity to turn that all around. GreenAlert already faced off against the #1 seed from the BattleNet qualifier and beat him. So, you know, what's the #2 seed from the CCO qualifier? It's all the same. You can take them both down. But in this case, DutchArmy is not playing random. He is playing his typical allies, which will be his strongest faction. Whereas DDF, you could make an argument that perhaps if he had chosen one faction and stuck to it, maybe he would have fared better against GreenAlert. But he decided to play random. He wanted to stick with that. And here we go with the double Vindicator and the expansion from DutchArmy. So he goes pretty quickly into the 3rd refinery. We did see the Naval Yard, and it's going to be an MCV cell for the Empire player. That is going to be an engineer into the obs tower in the middle there, and there is a Yari mini sub clearing through the bottom side of the map. 2 Tengus scouting around those maps. The Tengus took quite a path to be able to find this, and the Apollo is going to be engaging with the Tengus. That's 1 dead Tengu, soon to be a 2nd dead Tengu. No, it survives. The Apollo goes down. That Tengu with barely any HP, but he does survive, and the Apollo pays the price. Normally, the Apollo manages to get the kill and then sneak away. Vindicators come in, they kill off that Yari mini-sub, they make that Harvester safe, and I think that was the only Yari mini-sub built by the Empire player, so GreenAlert will not be able to easily take down that refinery or that Harvester. Power plant does have to be sold off here, but with the MCV redeploying, he is going to, well, okay, he's low power now, so any production that he does have will be slower. I don't think he's building a lot of aircraft, though, but he might be needing to defend at 2 locations at once. This Harvester finally going down. It's going to be the Tengus getting the kill, and DutchArmy getting bullied by these guns from the Empire. Imperial Warrior and Tengus joining forces to just slap around these allied units. That's a lot of Apollos, but if the Tengus don't take to the sky, then the Apollos have nothing to fight their wasted cash. 5 grand flying in the air, doing nothing. Meanwhile, these Imperial Warriors, they may not do a lot on their own, but together they will prevail. And that Harvester's so close to death. The walls finishing just in time, and the refinery is down. This is an MCV cell Empire player, so he does need to get big damage done, but I feel like we are seeing big damage come through. GreenAlert, he had to play almost more games than anyone coming into this event, and maybe that is what is causing him to be in such tip-top shape. This is a best of 9. This is a longer series, but GreenAlert is starting out with a fantastic victory here on Infinity Isle, and he's like, you can trap me in here, that's fine. I'm just going to block this refinery location, and Dutch Army, his MCV below 50% HP. This is not how he wanted this game to go, but always, the MCV cell does have its own set of drawbacks. Number one, we are approaching the 6-minute mark. Cryo shot, point defense drones would be coming online, but this is an Empire player who will not be able to apply point defense drones unless this is actually an MCV getting ready to finish up and head on out. But it looks like it might just be another tsunami tank as the walls get broken down. Vindicator goes down, and double Vindicator goes down. It looks like as Dutch Army's army has fallen apart. And yeah, the 11K of army on the Empire side, a decent chunk of it is actually these Imperial warriors, but they're still doing damage. They basically knocked down a refinery, and the GG comes out. Dutch Army will tap out of game number 1, and GreenAlert gets an early win. We are truly time traveling here. It has been a while since we've seen an allied player lose a game 1 and then immediately go to Snowplow for game number 2, but with this retro map pool, that's what can happen. In the north, playing the red, give it up for Dutch Army. It is a tale as old as time for allied players, and in the south, this is GreenAlert with an aggressive and impressive game number 1 there on Infinity Isle. No cryocopters to disrupt him, but he has to deal with the cold snow and ice now on Snowplow. This really does take me back. It was such a quintessential thing for allied players as soon as they lose a game to then choose Snowplow. And it's almost always going to be available because no one else is going to be picking Snowplow versus an allied player. And every once in a while, you'd get an allied player who would choose not to go to Snowplow, and it's like, oh, thank goodness. But in this case, yeah, I'm going to guess that these guys, because as I've talked about a couple of times, there were different ways of selecting the maps, and the players could agree on the way beforehand. The most common way is you agree on a starting map, and then it's loser picks thereafter. But in this case, I'm going to assume that that's what they did. It would be very funny if this was a pre-selected map. They had done the full map selection and ban process at the beginning, but I'm going to assume they didn't do that. We've got ourselves a Riptide and some Javelins. We've got ourselves a Snowplow game for the allied player to try and come back in this series. He's only down 0-1 in a best of 9. So Dutch Army, like I said, I'm pretty sure he has a winning record versus GreenAlert, and it's only 1 game in a best of 9. Airfield deployed onto the water here at the front. A potential 3rd refinery on the way, and the bridge collapse has been denied. The Imperial Warriors will get the kill. They can start chipping away at that oil derrick as well. Wow, this really takes me back. This does feel like an exact lockstep with how Snowplow often would be played out, especially versus Empire. Some allied players love their Riptide APC. They love their Riptide Jav combo, but especially versus Empire and Dutch Army. He's shown that in the past. And in this case, oil derrick does end up going down. He doesn't actually nuke the bridge. I thought he was going to do both. Nuke the bridge and take down the oil derrick. Meanwhile, Imperial Warriors in this building still chipping away at that oil derrick. No 3rd refinery up for GreenAlert just yet, but we do have the 3rd here for Dutch Army. No tier 2, though, for Dutch Army, so he is delaying his cryocopters, or the potential of cryocopters, for an option of a 3rd refinery a bit quicker. No tier 2 from the Empire player either. And the Naval Yard did get sold off. It's just the power plant back there on the water. 2nd airfield up and running. Oil derrick might actually be saved here. At least 1 Vindicator on the map, and the Tengus biding their time. They are either just trying to stay out of the way of the Apollos, or they are really concerned that there is some attack sneaking in from the side. Unfortunately for them, they're sort of on the wrong side from the air forces. Riptides clear out the building, and this other building has now been taken by GreenAlert. So he has gone for that. Dutch Army, okay, I would have really expected him to have gone tier 2, but no, he has not yet gone tier 2. There's the Tengu with the transform, as both players happy to play this one out a little bit slower, especially Dutch Army, because he killed his opponent's oil derrick. He took a 3rd refinery, and now he's feeling pretty good about the economics of this situation. And he's going to drop a couple of bombs as well. One Tengu goes down, and Dutch Army just slowly trying to clear out his side of the map and delay his opponent from being able to do too much. Tengu in position to go for the harass right onto the harvester. Going to be forcing Dutch Army to respond to that. And now this oil derrick going to take a little bit of more damage. But of course, the oil derrick did have a good while to heal up a bit. Get back up to full HP. And the MCV packing up to move along. Snowplow, not an action-packed aggressive game compared to that last one. A very slow and thoughtful follow-up to that aggressive game number 1. We do have, I believe, 6 Apollos and 2 Vindicators as the choice for the allied player. You've got 8 slots to fill up. What are you going to choose? In this case, 6 Apollos is the answer. Will give you a lot of anti-air firepower versus those Tengus. And Dutch Army floating nearly $3,000 in the bank, so he can get that refinery. He can build anything he wants. Yeah, he's completely blocked on production because he didn't go tier 2, because he doesn't have anything beyond the airfields. He quite literally cannot build anything else, and now he goes 4 refineries, so he gets the multi-gunner turret at the same time. Normally, $2,800, that would be quite a spending spree all in one go, but in this case, he had the cash, and now he can actually start building something else. Cryo shot going to be coming in. Engineer gets spotted. The sell-off from that MCV gets identified, and here come the Tengus. They've got point defense drones applied once in this game. There's the big transform on top of the Riptides. 2 of them get left behind in the sky, fighting the Apollos, and one of them going down. Riptides getting eliminated. Javelins as well. Dutch Army has gone for a bit of greed, and he might be paying the price, but he's got time to respond. He's got an economic foundation to work from. Tsunami Tank doing a bit of harassment there on the water, and you might have to go for the power plant, or you might have to go for the exit. We'll see what GreenAlert wants to do. Nice activation on the nano deflectors to keep that Tsunami Tank alive. And the Tank Busters adding into the DPS as the Tengus look to re-engage with these Riptides and then transform out of there. The Apollos are here to receive them, though. And these are point defense drones versus the guns of the Apollos with the repair. And the Apollos like those odds. Multi-gunner turret getting a couple of shots in as well. And the Tsunamis haven't found the damage that they were looking for. They knocked down the refinery, but it cost GreenAlert almost everything that he owned. A lot of army value just got wiped off of the map for the Empire player. As you can see, the swing of like 4,000 worth of army value from the Empire advantage to the Allied advantage over the course of that fight. A big chunk of that was those Tengus transforming into the air to escape and then running into the Apollos immediately after. Imperial Warriors getting in on the fight, and every time a Tsunami Tank goes down, it's another big chunk of the army value knocked out. At least a Harvester did get eliminated. A refinery was killed off as well, so Dutch Army has lost most of his economy, and his oil derrick got cleaned up earlier as well. This airfield nearly knocked down, and the Guardian Tank's now going to respond. They get the kill on the Tsunami very easily, and for now, Dutch Army has pushed back the forces. GG gets called, and GreenAlert drops game number 2. Unsurprisingly, Snowplow is an Allied victory. And that'll send us to Battle Base Beta for the tiebreaker here in this series. It's best of 9, but all things are tied up 1-1. In the north, playing the Empire, this is GreenAlert. And in the south, rocking the red, of course, this is DutchArmy. Both of them cutting through their first round opponents in very entertaining and like unbelievably entertaining and high quality series between the two of them. Just a fantastic way to start off gathering Storm, making it through the qualifiers, and then getting into playoffs and getting to watch those matches. Okay. All right, pretty quick, but not immediate here from GreenAlert. He did delay this by a bit, and I believe it was just to get out this, like, what is this, a triple dojo opening? Maybe there was a fourth dojo. I think it was just a triple dojo opening for GreenAlert, but he did dump a fair amount of cash into early infantry. So it is a delayed ore refinery here on the high ground, and it looks like it'll be matched by an MCV move for a third refinery as well. It does feel like players are fairly consistently going for those third refineries. We don't see it every single time, but the like 2-minute third refinery, we're kind of handshaking that it's not going to be a crazy aggressive game. We're not throwing things away. But of course, you know, in game number 1, we had a fairly early MCV sell from the Empire player. Game number 2, a bit of a later MCV sell from the Empire player. But in this game, third refineries, and I am presuming the DutchArmy is going for a third refinery down there as well. Peacekeeper's going to be able to get the drop on that tank buster, so knocking that tank buster down before he can really do very much damage to that Riptide. Javelin's going to be popping on out, and there just aren't a lot of targets here to knock down these Javelins. The Harvester is going to have to be... No, he gives up. He says, I'm not going to do it. The Harvester looked like he was going to fight, and then it looked like he got caught on the edge of the building or something, or glitched out or something, and he froze for a moment, and that's a free kill. You could not really be asking for a better way to start out this game number 3 as the Allied player than with that. A delayed third refinery from the Empire player into an almost instant kill of that refinery. He only got 1,000 credits. It was up for less than a minute of actual mining time, or I guess, less than a minute of actual mining time, and then the oil derrick goes down as well. So we're calling it right here, 3 minutes and 30 seconds. This is about as good of an opening as you could possibly ask for as the Allied player. It doesn't mean he's going to win the game. He could slip up from here. GreenAlert could have some masterful play. Getting the kill on a bunch of Javelins from here would be nice. Tengu's going to be coming in. Riptide goes down. Javelins are short to follow. And there we go. A Tengu gets traded back. So 2 Tengus lost in that exchange. You're pretty happy with even that as the Allied player. You knocked down like half of the army at that point. So that really is not as bad as it could have been. Peacekeeper gets ejected from there, but yeah, as long as DutchArmy doesn't take some colossally bad fight, he's going to be very happy with how this has started out, and he is going to be able to play this one out very well from here. GreenAlert, though, has some difficult decisions to make, and I'm just going to assume we're seeing an MCV sell in the very near future from the Empire player. He invested quite a bit trying to get that third refinery up and running, and it did not work out. The Harvester has turned into its gun mode, and it has crossed the map. There is an all-out assault, but this is not an MCV sell yet from GreenAlert. Perfect bomb splitting from DutchArmy. The tank busters all go down, but it looks like this refinery is going to take a big chunk of damage. I don't think there's anything inside of these Riptides, so they are just fighting straight up versus these Tengus. Tank busters now getting back into the fight. Vindicators getting ready to refuel and head in for another bombing run. But of course, there's already a refinery over here to replace that one. And the 3 Harvesters on the map for GreenAlert aren't quite the same as the 3 harvesters from Dutch Army. Vindicators come through, cleaning up even more Tengus as they try to exit. It's not a good start here for GreenAlert. 5.5 minutes in, and they didn't kill the harvester, so he can just deploy into some build radius. He can be building a refinery behind all of this, and even deploys the multi-gunner turret nice and far forward, so he's got lots of space. GreenAlert, he needs to pull something out truly amazing. Transforming a bunch of Tengus and fighting these Apollos is probably not the play. The Apollo's looking to cut down these Tengus. The Apollos are easier to replace for the allied player from this position than the Tengus are. And even so, an Apollo gets a kill. The Tengus now being hunted by the Vertigo bombers. The bomb split's going to be good. 1, 2... and it just couldn't be going better. Ava got one as well! I didn't even realize that guy was low enough health to get... Oh, that one Vindicator just doubled his own value. So, it truly is Dutch Army's game to lose by, like, just every metric imaginable. This is depressing for GreenAlert to see. Your refinery rocks up, and then there's already a Riptide. The thing that killed the refinery last time was a Riptide loaded up with some Javelin soldiers, and then you roll up to the expansion, and it's already there waiting for you. As the Vindicators come in, the Tengus can't do anything. If they try to engage, the Apollos will kill them. The numbers just are not on their side. The Harvester comes in, revenge of the Empire, as the Tank Buster goes down in the drive-by. The Riptides just roll through that section of the map and kill off a Tank Buster as they exit. Tier 2 is now up. The Strikers are out on the field. But, well, at least the refinery is up. The Strikers are probably not going to be in good enough numbers anytime soon to be a significant threat to the Vindicators. And I am a little surprised that GreenAlert, that Dutch Army didn't go either Naval Yard, Tier 2 with cryocopters, or into a War Factory. I was expecting War Factory, Guardian tanks, IFVs, that sort of thing. Instead, he goes, adds that 3rd airfield, and then a Chronosphere, and the Harvester drives away and then drives back. There is an extra Harvester as well, so the 4 Harvesters, again, on the Empire side are not the same as the 4 Harvesters on the Allied side. We've got cryocopters. I was kind of just expecting either like a switch up into War Factory or something else, but we've got 2 minutes on the clock until the Chronosphere. We'll see if Dutch Army can pull something out. Unlike some of the previous events, there's no bounty for Chronosphere usage in this event. It's just who wins the most games, who is able to progress the farthest in the tournament. And I should mention, GG comes out. Okay, so GreenAlert not looking to fight that one out anymore. Dutch Army picks up his 2nd win of the series. And I should mention, I was going to say, whoever wins this series is into the upper bracket finals. It means that they are guaranteed a top 3 finish here in Gathering Storm. And that'll send us to Chrysaberyl Garden for game number 4. Leading the series with a 1-point advantage, going airfield first, it's Dutch Army. And in the south, the Green Empire needing to catch up. This is GreenAlert. We, of course, do not have a clean sweep on our hands as of yet here in Gathering Storm playoffs. We don't have any clean sweeps at all. We did have some almost clean sweeps in that first round, but none of them have actually been clean sweeps, and mostly they have been pretty close. Even the ones where the scoreline wasn't super close, many of the games inside of them were very close, and that's great to see. Always, as a viewer, you know, the players all want them to be clean sweeps. They just want to 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, whatever, everybody, and just knock them all out. But of course, as viewers, we are at odds with the players in the sense of we want everything to be extremely close. We want it to be filled with tension. We don't want there to be shutouts and clean sweeps and domination. We want back and forth and a nice mix-up. Oil Derrick ends up going down. Triple Vindicator as the choice. So this is an allied player who believes that the power is going to be on the ground for the Empire player. And he did scout. I don't know if he saw the exact timing of this mecha bay, but that war factory was a bit delayed because of the double-triple dojo opening, whatever it was, and also all of the Imperial warriors. So without tank busters, which of course the tank busters can be easily sniped by the Vindicators, but without the tank busters, you can't get through the walls. So there is one tank buster here, but he's not going to be able to do very much before the first Vindicator is able to refuel and get some bombs out. So we'll see if he can break down one wall segment. An Imperial warrior is going to have to plug the hole, but yeah, that's the problem right there. You're seeing it in action. Why did he not go for a bunch of tank busters? That's the exact reason. Vindicators coming in, dropping their bombs, cleaning up those tank busters. Like, it would work versus a player like me. Uh-oh. And now another delay for GreenAlert. It would work versus a player like me because I'm not good at bomb splitting. But because then you just get like 3 tank busters and it's too many for me to split bombs. But versus an actually good player like DutchArmy, the tank busters will be sniped individually by those bombs, and it is just not efficient. 3 Apollos out on the field, but it's a double airfield, so that can grow up to 5 Apollos with current numbers. Vindicator's going to be able to come in. They will see these strikers, and they are happy to go for the fight. One's Vindicator goes down. Okay, so the striker trades one back, but everybody else makes it out for basically free. Everyone else makes it out with just a little bit of hull damage that will be repaired. And now the Imperial Warriors, they are completely walled in. They actually ended up getting trapped there so that the MCV could just drive out. And there's only 2 Imperial Warriors out here. And there's no real reason to ever let these Imperial Warriors out of their cage. It's a bit of a zoo situation with DutchArmy and Green. I didn't actually think about that, but yeah, they got walled in, and then all of the tank busters are gone, and 2 more choppers, 2 more VXs go down. 1 Vindicator traded back. The allied player is going to be happy with that exchange, and there's the MCV cell. So no point defense drones for GreenAlert. He is going to have to pull something out here, and okay, this is the start of it once again. Oh, he did not send the engineer for the hospital, actually. Send it up to the high ground, go for the hospital. Bombs starting to drop. The Imperial Warrior is able to escape. The build radius is a little bit too far. It's all the way down here on the water, so the build radius can't actually deny the Imperial Warriors their escape path. But DutchArmy doesn't... What are these Imperial Warriors going to do? Are they glitched out? Can they not actually get over here and attack that Harvester? I thought they would be going for the Harvester and trying to kill it off, but they're actually just holding position at the current moment. Sometimes terrain around the edges of things is a little bit wonky. Well, another Vindicator goes down. 2 Chopper VXs traded back. Once again, DutchArmy is going to be pretty happy with that, especially considering his 3rd refinery is up and running. The Oil Derrick advantage has been on the side of GreenAlert up to this point. It has been a green money map there for these 2 players. But as you can see, it is swinging back into DutchArmy's favor. Does have to split his bombs a little bit differently with these Imperial Warriors. And the engineer, that is the sneaky play. I said go for the hospital, but if this works, if GreenAlert is able to keep DutchArmy's attention focused over here in this side of the base, and that engineer makes it all the way over there, that could be the game-winning move regardless. Strikers moving forward. Tsunami tanks able to do some damage. The cryo shot choke point is perfect. 2 choppers frozen on the ground, and there's going to be the sell-off. This Peacekeeper is going to be a hero. He gets chopped down, though. The slice and dice comes through. The Imperial Warrior finds the kill, and the fight breaks out as the engineer gets dangerously close to that target. And it's not the MCV. It's a refinery stolen away over there. The MCV has already repositioned, but that chopper, that Striker VX actually survived the fight. It doesn't survive the follow-up fight, but now the refinery is offline for the allied player, and he's down to just one harvester, one refinery. Okay, two harvesters, but functionally one refinery. And the refinery got sold off, so the engineer cannot recapture that refinery. It would be kind of a risky move anyways. Just a little bit of additional cash there for the Empire player to play with. But of course, no point defense drones. That's the real problem for the Empire player. Oil Derrick gets targeted down. Dutch Army doing what he can to get any value that he can from this situation, but he is so strapped for cash. Sells off that power plant. That is one nice thing, is when you've built the infrastructure, you can refund some of it and get some of that cash back in your pocket. He could even sell off that other power plant if he really wanted to get out that refinery a bit quicker and then just rebuild the power plant after the refinery finishes, but he doesn't need it. And so now the rebuild has sort of happened for both players. The army has been built up a bit for... Okay, he's transforming. For Dutch Army, for GreenAlert, Dutch Army has rebuilt his infrastructure, and the Tengus find a good angle on the Vindicator, and they transformed just in time as the Apollos had already passed over, and now they can join back up with their Striker friends, and the Apollos, they can't fight these guys together. When it's the Tengus and the Strikers together, the Apollos will lose that fight. Javelin soldiers can make it a little bit more complicated with the two of them being in that building, but if the Imperial Warriors manage to get over there, they could clear out that building and knock down those Javelin soldiers. There are still ways for both players to be able to make the comeback happen in this game. Third refinery back up and running for Dutch Army. He is restabilizing. He is getting himself back to where he was. Apollos here. Transform must be on cooldown. The Tengus not able to really save their Chopper VX friends. Two Chopper VXs just going down. The timing of that must have been disastrously bad for GreenAlert. He was clearly controlling his units, but he had not been able to transform them to get a better fight versus the Apollos, and now he loses 2,400 of army value with no way to answer back. Tengus and VXs looking for that dream fight versus the Allied Air Forces. He might have the... Did he get the advanced rocket pods upgrade? Is that what the different visual was, or were they just blinking for a different reason? Tengu going for the harass there. Always good for the Empire player if he can successfully pull off the harass, but Tier 2 is now done, and this game just got a lot harder for the Empire player. Tengu's going to be fighting it out with the Vindicators for a little bit, but goodbye to the Chopper VXs, and there's the GG coming out. GreenAlert will tap out there, and Dutch Army puts another point on the board. Things started out quite back and forth, but they're starting to lean in one direction. Needing to put some points on the board, otherwise it'll be a full-on comeback scenario. This is GreenAlert, putting up a great fight in that last game, but ultimately it was not enough, and looking dominant in this series. This is Dutch Army. 3 points to 1 so far, but that last game almost got away from him. And if GreenAlert had been able to, if the timing would have been a little bit different on that engineer jumping into that ore refinery, I mean, either if he was able to steal that MCV, which would have been truly amazing, but if he would have been able to pick up the harvester as well when he stole that ore refinery, that would have actually cleaned things up in a really nice way for GreenAlert and helped him secure that game. But as it stood, he was, you know, pretty low on economy, and as soon as those cryocopters came out, he no longer really had the army to contest. That was another thing. There were a couple of points where Chopper VXs went down, or Striker VXs went down, where if GreenAlert had been able to preserve them in that moment, then his army is much stronger by the time the cryocopters get out onto the field, but Dutch Army was persistent, able to knock down those units and keep the Empire Army from growing too large. The walls are not coming up quite as completely in this game. Okay, he's starting to wall them in a little bit more. He sees the Imperial Warrior numbers, and he's like, I don't think you're going to be rushing over here with your forces, but just in case, let me add a couple of more wall segments around these buildings. No one's going to be stealing those for now. Refinery primed to go here. Dutch Army, is he feeling the third refinery pretty quickly? He has been in most of these games, so it wouldn't be surprising to see it yet again. We're just keeping an eye on that MCV, because in different situations, forced to or not, it does seem like GreenAlert is favoring the MCV cell as a tactic. Sometimes it's a response to something that has just happened in the game, and sometimes it is the plan going into the game for the Empire player. Walls have finished up, so Dutch Army has done a pretty good job of securing his base. He did the old almost kill your own oil derrick trick, but because the Empire player didn't actually try to capture the oil derrick, he hasn't actually needed to blow his own oil derrick up. So for now, it just keeps ticking away, bringing in income for the Allied cause. Tengus, just off screen, you can see, I think the Apollos were kind of hunting for them. You can see the Apollos just flying their loops around the map like, okay, I know you gotta have Tengus somewhere. Where are they? And now they're flying into vision, and they will reveal themselves. Apollos are here, but there's the big transform, and the Tengus can start putting some pressure onto this ore refinery. It's going to be sold off there, and there are javelins here, but this is a lot of Tengus. They don't quite manage to get on top of the javelins in time, and now all of the javelins and peacekeepers are coming on out, but there's Imperial Warriors and tank busters here on the front line as well, so the Vindicators have got to choose their targets carefully. Just kidding, Vindicator singular. There's not more than one of them, and this Imperial infantry is looking terrifying to this MCV. The Tengu numbers have been cut down significantly, but without that additional refinery and with no production to speak of, GreenAlert has an open runway to knock down Dutch Army's MCV. The tank buster goes down, but the Imperial Warrior plants himself in the spot where that wall should go, and the MCV has to hide on the far side of those walls. Slowly moving over is the Peacekeeper, and this has bought so much time for GreenAlert to be able to do whatever he wants. Nothing dies on the deck, but that's hardly the advantage that you were hoping to find, as the Apollos don't need to drop down. They haven't fired hardly a shot in this game anyways. The MCV gonna pack up, get as many crushes as it can, and the Vindicator bombs come in, but there goes the... no, it survived! The healing actually keeps it alive. These Imperial Warriors so close to killing it off, and that guy feels like a hero as the GG comes in, and GreenAlert picks up his second win of the series. That'll send us to Fire Island. It's not quite the same as Snowplow, but it does have some similar advantages. Looking to break those advantages, this is GreenAlert. And can he correct from the loss? This is Dutch Army. GreenAlert has an opportunity to tie this series up, but it is Fire Island. It's got that narrow corridor, and many Allied players do love this map, which I did want to just go... I did try to say in an earlier game, and then I get interrupted by all this action that keeps happening. But as I said, whoever wins this series will be a guaranteed top 3 finish because you'll make it into the upper bracket finals. And then even if you lose the upper bracket finals and lose the lower bracket finals, you will finish in the number 3 spot, which would net you $234 from the prize pool. And then second place is $456, and first place is $1,111 for whoever wins Gathering Storm. And of course, all of this is a big thanks to MediaStorm and to Tim over at MediaStorm, who, as I've referenced a couple of times, he just liked Red Alert 3. He just played Red Alert 3 growing up. He enjoys seeing Red Alert 3 competitive action. He likes watching tournaments and seeing the community come together to play competitive Red Alert 3. And so he was like, you know what? I'm going to sponsor an event. And turns out, basically the biggest event since Ladder Season 3. So a huge thank you to Tim for sponsoring Gathering Storm. And a big thanks to the players for participating and showing some really incredible Red Alert 3 action, going toe-to-toe with each other. And I'm glad to see that the series are going back and forth. And we are here on Fire Island to see if they continue to go back and forth or if DutchArmy can get a little bit further ahead in this series, making the score 4-2 instead of 3-3. Tengu's going to engage this Apollo. Let's take a check-in on that MCV because you never know with these Empire players if they're going to be selling off that MCV. We do have a couple of tank busters here. One oil derrick got knocked down in the early minutes of the game. The other one is currently held here by GreenAlert. And the MCV has moved forward a bit, but not super duper far yet. Tengu's looking for the engage. Javelins get a bit of a laser lock on that oil derrick, but not for long. Imperial Warriors looking to slice and dice, and that Tengu gets cleaned up. No answer back thus far from the Empire player. Everything is staying on the ground because of the threat of the Apollos, and it's double airfield for DutchArmy. He can add, I guess he should probably add one more Vindicator, and then he can add, have 5 or 6 Apollos in total, and 2 or 3 Vindicators, depending on how many he goes for. Third refinery has been very common for DutchArmy and a little bit less common for GreenAlert. We'll see if here on Fire Island, GreenAlert decides to try and go for this refinery location. It's a little bit awkward. This one can be tough to defend, but this one is an obvious threat for any cryo shenanigans from the Allied player. And Allied players do love their central MCV position, so then this land-based expansion also becomes a threat for multi-gunner turret pushes. But we'll see. DutchArmy, I assume, is going for a third refinery right now. Tengu's go for the transform. Everybody on the ground. But once again, good bombing runs coming in here from DutchArmy. He's got a safe buildup of Apollos, and then his Tengu's just come in after, or his Vindicator comes in, his Vindicator Singular comes in, splits bombs on any weakened targets that the Apollos have been able to chip down, and then bomb out and get any confirmed kills that he can. Both oil derricks are now gone, so the income advantage that GreenAlert once had is going to be disappearing now that he's just relying on those 2 refineries. And what is DutchArmy doing? Because he hasn't gone for his additional refinery yet. I really did expect to see a third refinery at this point. But he also hasn't gone tier 2, so he has been spending his cash just purely on his units. And I think it's a refinery now, either water or land, as you see it deploy there. He did probably add some more javelins and peacekeepers into this army. Peacekeepers get just abandoned. He just tosses them out onto the shore, and he's like, you guys distract them with your bodies, and we are running for it as the Riptides manage to escape. I assume the other Riptide has Javelin soldiers inside of it. Point defense drones should be coming up very, very soon here with these Tengus, and this is Tengu numbers that are good enough to fight these Apollos. So there another Tengu does go down. Point defense drones will be ready momentarily, and then they can just straight up fight these Apollos. It's only 4 Apollos currently. And as long as the Apollos don't have any support on the ground, some Javelin soldiers or IFVs getting in the mix, and the Apollos are not over top of an airfield getting repairs, they would be fine. GG gets called, and I guess DutchArmy is going to pick up his 4th win here on Fire Island, and that's happened a couple of times now, where players get into a bad situation and they know it's going to be difficult to fight it out, and instead of trying to fight it out, they just tap out. And that sends us from the tropical nighttime of Fire Island to the snowy nighttime of Epicenter Island for our game number 7. On the left side, rocking the red, this is DutchArmy. And on the right side, the green, the alert, this is GreenAlert. He is playing Empire, and he is going for a very quick 3rd refinery. So the question has become, when we see this map, because it is so common for Empire players to go for that 3rd refinery, does the Allied player sort of blind respond to the likely outcome of a 3rd refinery quickly and try and match it with their own 3rd refinery? Or do they try to punish that 3rd refinery and do some damage? We've seen this, all throughout the qualifiers. We saw a broad spectrum of responses. Many players do try to just match it, and we do have the scout coming in there. The dog from DutchArmy sees that expansion, and there are a couple of players who did just every time they wanted to go all-out aggression to try and knock that down. DutchArmy, is he going double expand? So what you can do as a response, you see the 3rd refinery, and then you're like, okay, I'll bounce back with my own refinery, and then you take this as a 4th refinery relatively quickly. You don't go necessarily immediately into that 4th refinery, but you do get your 4th refinery a bit quicker, which helps make up for the fact that your opponent got a 3rd refinery so much quicker than you. In this case, it's a barracks as the opener for DutchArmy. No airfield, so we can assume that it's going to be a naval yard for a couple of riptides, help these javelin soldiers scoot around the map and stay safe from Imperial warriors or Tengus. But for right now, it's just those barracks units running around the map for DutchArmy. Dog coming in for the secondary scout, and it's pretty quick into tier 2. I don't think there's a single Tengu out on the map for GreenAlert. He's gone straight to tier 2, so he's got access to those strikers. Peacekeepers moving up to the high ground, and he is going to be locked out of this refinery location. The walls are already up, and they completely encase that ref. Naval yard now out. No tier 2, so no assault destroyers, but Riptide Javelin. Look, we've talked about it a million times. You probably all knew it was coming as well, but the handshake has been completed. Both players sitting on 3 refineries, and we're into the almost 3.5 minute mark, and no big fights. So both players got their opportunity, get their eco established, get their production and tech established. And now the question is it going to be a 4th refinery, or is it going to be like an airfield, tier 2, try and go cryocopters, go aggressive, do something else for DutchArmy? And from this position, a tier 2 upgrade would be beneficial. He could reach both the naval yard and an airfield up here if he wants to go for that. And there is the move. Refinery number 4 finishes up. Sudden transport loaded up with tank busters, ready to move out. The safest these chopper VXs have ever been in this series is right here in this game number 4. Game number 4? Game number 7. The 4 of them flying around feeling good because there are no Apollos yet. Okay, there's the airfield. Finished it up right as I say that. He's adding on an airfield. Low power mode momentarily there for DutchArmy. It looks like a power plant or something else getting sold off. What's that? That engineer is not actually from an MCV cell. Oh, but the engineer gets eaten by a dog. Good boy, doggy eats the engineer, and it's a bit unfortunate he wasn't able to pick up that hospital. Chopper VX is able to chunk away a bit at these buildings, but DutchArmy is kind of just taken over the middle of the map. He's got his own hospital captured. He's got a lot of infantry out on the map, so having the healing everywhere on the map for his infantry is definitely a good thing. And of course, because he has now gone tier 2, the assault destroyer is now out. Dutch Army, he went 4th Refinery, and then he says, I'm playing defensive from here. Tengu's dropping on top of that Riptide. Black Hole Armor going to absorb the damage that is meant for other units, but there the Strikers get a kill. The Cryocopters show up, so everything on the ground is basically done for, but the Strikers need to get damage or get out of town, and they are, okay, they're choosing to go for damage. You kill off the Refinery, just go for maximum damage, and no, the Riptides have brought the Javelin soldiers already here to the front line. So now you have to deal with the Cryocopters. Dog running in. That guy's not a spy. He just gets eliminated as the Peacekeepers find a shrunken down Striker and get the kill. Apollos, are they close enough to respond? No, it's still just Cryocopters. No Apollos yet from the allied player. Strikers turn around, jump on that Riptide. That's an easy kill. A free one for the Empire. And answered back with a Tengu who flew just a little bit too close to the Javelin soldiers. The Javelin soldiers with their free repairs. And okay, we've got a defense bureau out on the field. Again, not something we see very often. He could actually be going Chronosphere, or he could be going something else. I'm not sure what his plan is with this. Okay, boot cam. We could be going places. Point defense drones now applied to these units, and the Black Hole Armor going to be moving out with these Peacekeepers and the Javelins on the north side. Dutch Army, he is at match point, so any loss from here on out from GreenAlert is a loss of the series. He gets booted down to the lower bracket. That was very weird to see for one moment, and now if this is a tank buster, if that is filled with tank busters, that is a lot of army value that just got erased. But we'll see what he's able to do. Point defense drones are here. Multi-gunner turret gets added on. There's the big transform by the Tengus. The hydrofoil on the ground, able to clear out one of those Strikers. Cryocopters being kept at bay by the VXs on the ground, but these Tengus are kind of trapped between a rock and a hard place as they filter away from the action towards the edge. The Cryocopters coming over. Could be a big transform. The hydrofoils are here. The Apollos fighting out this battle, and the Tengus going down. The Javelins picking up a bit of extra damage on exit here as everyone tries to fly out. The Cryocopters get caught, and that bit of the fight was worth it for the Empire player. Everybody else, get out of there and head back home. GreenAlert has other problems back at home. It's not an easy way to go back home and find a bunch of Javelin soldiers gunning down your Harvester as a response. Chopper VX is flying their way back, but the refinery is gone. The 4th refinery gets turned into the 3rd, and now this guy over here is no longer the 4th. The oil derrick also being targeted. That gets eliminated. Dutch Army crossing his T's and dotting his I's and making sure that he is not letting anything slip through. The Dolphin even coming through to scout this location. He thought there might have been a base and expansion over there, and there wasn't. Then he swings back through. The Apollos find the actual expansion out on the water down there. Assault destroyer goes down, but so does the barracks and the power plant. This allied force has not yet been dislodged. Tengu's coming in. A big transform will allow them to kill off these units, and the crash down knocks down a couple of Javelins as well as the Chronosphere comes online. This army gets shredded, but they have done their job. They have earned their keep. Killing off the refinery, the oil derrick, a power plant, a barracks, and a bunch of other random units. That army has done what it was built to do. Cryocopters back out on the field. At least one of them is. Yari Minisubs back underwater. And the Cryocopters, they may not have a cryo shot to assist them, but there's also no Sea Wings down here. So unfortunately, there isn't an easy way to stop this Cryocopter from doing his freeze unless you want to commit into the attack with your Tengus, which currently are on the wrong side of the map anyways. So the Tengus are looking for a bit of harassment, and that refinery might just have to be sold off down there. Javelin soldiers going down. Double Cryocopter going to be freezing that refinery, and if a Vindicator ever crosses over, they're going to be able to get a quick kill on that location. Yari Minisubs, they're trying to find an angle, but the Black Hole Armor is making it a little bit difficult for this base to actually be attacked. Vindicator comes through. There's the bomb drop, and the cryocopters can move on after that. Hydrofoil going to be stopping one of those Yari mini-subs from actually doing anything, as the Tengu gets eliminated, the Black Hole Armor, keeping that Harvester safe for now. Air units from Dutch Army passing over pretty much the entirety of the map. Javelin soldiers randomly placed there will get a bit of damage on the flyover of those choppers. Riptides responding to the Yari mini-subs, and that's Cryo Blast. As the Emperor's Rage comes in, the Apollos are here to fight it out. They're replaceable as the GG comes out, and Dutch Army will advance into the upper bracket finals. GreenAlert drops down to the lower bracket, but we've got one more series to get to in this video, and that'll send us to Battle Base Beta for the other half of this video. The other best of 9. We'll kick it off with the orange allied player in the north. This is Classicnoob. And on the south side, playing the random, drawing the Soviets, this is opShijiao. Sticking with random, something that he played a little bit in the qualifiers, but not entirely in the qualifiers. There was a chunk of the qualifiers that he did not play random. He did finish the qualifiers random and played some of the other matches random, but he did not play the entirety of the qualifiers random. But we see him at least here in game number 1. We could probably assume the whole series, but we see him starting off with random, gets himself Soviets and Classicnoob. We do, of course, expect him to be allies. So we do have one final best of 9. Whoever wins this goes up against Dutch Army in that upper bracket finals, and whoever loses this drops down to the lower bracket. Classic flak cannon frozen at 99%. Does actually finish it. Right as the reactor comes online, he does indeed finish it. Timing there could have been a little bit better. A full bomb drop did get off on that Bullfrog because of the low power mode for just a moment, but the option would have been to pause the Bullfrog for a moment until the reactor had finished, and then finish the flak cannon, and then finish the Bullfrog. But in the end, it probably won't make that big of a difference. 3 Bullfrogs are now out. Vindicators coming in. Good peel for the first one, and not enough DPS. That Bullfrog was not actually close by. I think it was the lower health one. It was whatever one was coming from the main base wasn't actually close enough by. And so that first Bullfrog does get picked off. I don't think that will really matter because both players are posturing towards third bases. Refineries coming online moments later there for the Soviet player, and unless they go super aggressive, that early Bullfrog kill just probably will be eclipsed by other things that happen in this game. Sometimes those early Bullfrog kills really do make a big difference, but we're not seeing a cryocopter rush. We're not seeing some... Man, you never get used to the Allied build radius, even after all of these years, just how far they can place turrets onto the map. It's not, unless this game really accelerates, which it doesn't look like it is, those early Bullfrog kills are not going to matter as much as they would in some of those other games. And is he actually setting up for an immediate 4th refinery? This does get spotted. Nice scouting pattern here by Classicnoob. He is going to be seeing that orb. It is starting up immediately. We do also have the Bear coming in to scout over here at the natural expansion on the water of Classicnoob. So both players getting not quite perfect, but pretty good scouts of each other. Classicnoob has the advantage of the very early aircraft, so he can scout more completely, more easily. But the fact that that Bear got in from opShijiao, sees that naval expansion, sees the timing of the command hub, and man, both players, 4 refineries before the 4-minute mark. They are actually playing big eco. Double Bullfrog actually goes down, traded back for 1 Vindicator, and that's sort of what you would expect to see. 3 Vindicators come in, 2 of them make it out alive. 3 Bullfrogs start, only 1 of them does survive. In that kind of a situation, that is what you can expect. Terror Drone is here. Vindicator will be able to get... Nope. will get the infect. Of course, with the naval yard right here, it really doesn't matter very much. But, you know, you do force the harvester off the line for those extra couple of seconds. I guess if the terror drone is going to die, you might as well get that extra 2 seconds of harvest time denial. You pull them off the line for an extra couple of seconds, and the terror drone is already going to die. So there's nothing you can do to really save the terror drone from that situation. And the MCV packs up. opShijiao, he is headed for open waters or cleaner land or something. He's moving out from his 4th refinery location, which this is often the pocket setup, these 4 refineries there with one of them out on the water. He also doesn't... Oh, he goes Tesla coil. Okay, so the Dolphins will be completely stopped by this Tesla coil. They really can't do anything with this kind of a placement. Maybe there's one angle that they can find where they can do a bit of damage, especially because the Dolphins can splash a little bit further than their actual range. But I think you really just have to bring a couple of Vindicators along or wait for a cryo shot or cryo blast to freeze these things down. But for now, that Tesla coil is going to keep everything safe. Tier 2 is up for both players, of course. Super reactor for the Soviet player. And there's going to be a high frozen down hammer tank here. One of them does end up getting frozen, and the missiles do land. When they're shrunken down, they do kind of... That is a 5th refinery. And Classicnoob has a 5th harvester, a prospector headed for that expansion location. Sometimes when hammer tanks are shrunken down, they do kind of avoid the damage of the missile, the multi-gunner turrets. But in that case, it did get the kill on the frozen hammer tank. Kind of like the Bullfrog earlier, depending on how this actually goes, that one hammer tank death might not actually mean all that much. opShijiao and Classicnoob both going for 5th refineries. The difference being that opShijiao actually has his completed, and Classicnoob just has another, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds to wait until that prospector is fully set up into the command hub, and then he can actually deploy that refinery placement. Double Dolphin and a Hydrofoil there on the lower part of the ground. Vindicator ends up going down. Second Vindicator taking a lot of damage. It looks like at least one hammer tank went down in the scuffle. Another Bullfrog very low on health, but can anyone actually get close enough to kill it? No. The Bullfrog does get saved. Nice body block there by the reactor. The reactor cutting off the attack path of that multi-gunner turret. These cryocopters need to be dealt with if he is allowed to just freeze and shrink things without being stopped. Then it's going to be a big problem for the Soviet player. Cryo shot comes down. Not a great one. Doesn't really catch anything. It gets avoided by the Soviet player. And now one multi-gunner turret gets deleted. The other 2 are still here firing away. But some of the attack paths have been cut off. Cryocopters forced away in the Athena cannon. All right, this is what Classicnoob has been working towards in this game. And he's got some toxins to worry about immediately. Toxins get called in, but all 3 multi-gunner turrets get broken down. Tank kind of drives into his own toxins there. And while these toxins can be a great area denial, they can also work against you. So in this case, the Soviet player can't keep pressing forward. The Soviet player has to play at range. And the Athena cannons have escaped for now. Guardian tank going to drive into those toxins a little bit here, right at the end of the toxins really being effective. Still no 5th refinery actually up for Classicnoob. Okay, that Guardian tank taking a bit of damage from that toxin. And both oil derricks still on the map up to this point. Hydrofoil and Double Dolphin down there. Twin Blade hunting for a target, but on the back end, on the front line, it's actually going to be a terror drone getting sniped. Twin Blades getting pushed away. Harvester down, pretty low on health. Hydrofoil shows up. No, he misses. He doesn't actually get the damage onto the low health Twin Blade there. So unfortunately for Classicnoob, he doesn't get the kill. And it's not often that you get to see 5 refinery versus 4 refinery. There is an advantage for the Soviet player who's been ahead on refineries pretty much that whole time. And opShijiao, he has been playing a just like slow macro snowball style, and so far the allied player has not been able to do anything to majorly disrupt that. We've seen some small attacks here and there. Vindicators moving forward at various points, but now he's trying to catch the army as it's down on the low ground. The tanks avoid that Freezy Ray, and now who's trapped in here with who? Cryocopters show up, Shrink comes in, no freeze just yet. Aegis Shield gets popped, but guess who's already inside the house? It's the hammer tanks bringing down the hammer and flattening the allied forces. A huge swing in the attack with the twin blades over top. What does Classicnoob actually have left over to fight opShijiao, who now has a 6th refinery onto the field? Is this just a full macro stomp from the Soviet player? Because right now, 2 cryocopters have survived, a couple of jabs, a couple of peacekeepers, IFVs, a few other odds and ends for the allied player, but that was a crazy good fight for the Soviet player. Now is the time to zone out the Soviet player and play the artillery advantage. That could actually still save the allied player if opShijiao sits back and lets these Athena cannons work their magic. He's not letting it happen as he moves forward. Hammer tanks getting in range. Twin blades cannot be dealt with by just one Apollo. The GG gets called, and opShijiao takes the first very confident win here on Battle Base Beta. And if you think that first game was a fluke, don't worry. Game number 2 is on Deep Sea. So we kind of get to just do it all again, because play it as the blue Soviets this time. See, he changed his color so that you know it's a different game. This is opShijiao. And in the south, playing the allies, give it up for Classicnoob. Once again, opShijiao getting random Soviets. We do have ourselves a very similar map, a very similar matchup. And yeah, just the colors are a little bit different. The layout of the expansions is also a bit different. You don't quite have the same Pocket 4 on Deep Sea that you do on Battle Base Beta. With these expansions being down here on the low ground, this and the water expansion being a bit further away, that's what makes this map very different on more than 3 expansions. But the first 3, you can play this map out pretty similar to taking your high ground expansion on Battle Base Beta. That part of the map is very similar between the 2. Okay, War Factory is out. It was double reactor again, so no rush to... Is he going full scout? He suspects something. Or he truly did not actually refuel his Vindicator and he only had 1 bomb to drop. But either way, Classicnoob almost just lost 2 Vindicators. That would have been the majority of his cash spend up to this point in the game. Down the drain. As... Okay, there's the MCV. I was wondering where the MCV was going as he heads to the low ground. Conscript's going to be pushing this way. Bullfrogs, they're going to get on top of the airfield, and with the Bears locking down any potential infantry response, where are these Vindicators going to go? They're waiting for the multi-gunner turret to actually get them some landing space, and now they can move over. Okay, no, they decide to clear out the Bears. And opShijiao not going for any of the standard expansions, is instead going for this low ground refinery, and he's got the build radius to take the high ground refinery as well. The sickle will go down, Vindicators being kept safe by the multi-gunner turrets, and he could, opShijiao that is, could have definitely played that one more aggressively, but you're going to have a really hard time navigating around this multi-gunner turret with just sickles and bullfrogs. So yeah, he could have potentially gone a bit harder, but I think that was a good move. He was able to kind of guard dog the air units from being able to quickly just engage. They ended up cleaning up the sickle anyways, but most of their time has been bombing out these groups of infantry, and this Peacekeeper Scout from Classicnoob is perfectly done. He will identify this refinery down there, He's already done a flyover over here, so he knows that's a possibility. I don't think he's spotted it, though. And 4 refineries up nice and early, once again, before the 4-minute mark for opShijiao. And this does not bode well for Classicnoob, who has gone much, much earlier for cryocopters. Instead of going for a 4-minute 4th expansion, he's going for sub-4-minute cryocopters. But we'll see if it works out, because last game, there was a big snowball that started rolling right around that 3 to 4 minute mark, and it never was able to be stopped. opShijiao just pulled off a, like, perfect macro game of just building a slow, incremental almost advantages, 1 refinery at a time, that added up to be a big, big difference maker over the course of the game. These Vindicators need to be careful. They can kill a couple of Bullfrogs in trade, but with 4 Bullfrogs, you're losing 1 of the Vindicators. If you aren't good with your control, you're losing 2 of the Vindicators. If you're really bad with your control, you're losing all of them. But okay, he goes for the safe option, bombs out the Harvester. Looks like he got some splash damage. And this multi-gunner turret going to be forcing that MCV away. This is the difference maker here. The 3rd refinery will power the Allied player, but the 4th refinery is under threat for the Soviet player. Cryocopter, free damage from this MiG, only gets 1 shot. Okay, the IFV and the multi-gunner turret are both here. Another multi-gunner turret going to be forcing these units away, and the hammer tanks don't want to fight. Vindicators coming in, just full-on bombing run. They knock down that Harvester, and that's one of the things, is the game is sort of balanced around some interactions. They very deliberately have brought down the Vindicator damage, like against Harvesters, I think, in particular, so that you can't just, as an Allied player, easily bomb out a Harvester like you can a Bullfrog. But, I mean, if you got 3 Vindicators and the uptime, yeah, make a couple of bombing runs and you get the kill. And now the Bullfrogs are in the wrong spot to actually defend. You can freeze that Harvester and you can get another kill. He doesn't go for it. Instead, he's moving forward onto the front line. 2 hammer tanks down. All 3 Vindicators survive. opShijiao showing off a macro masterclass in game number 1, but the unit exchanges here for the first 6 minutes are not going the same way in game number 2. Classicnoob, he has skipped out on a little bit of his economy, and instead he is actually finding a couple of wins in these earlier game fights. It's still not looking necessarily great for Classicnoob. Okay, we'll see as those Vindicators will back on off. I do think he needs to do something to punish this refinery here. He needs to... Okay, never mind. He doesn't need to do anything because the Athena Cannon will bring down the pain. But killing off that Harvester on the north side early enough that, you know, you slow down the economy, killing this refinery safely from the high ground is even better. Killing off that Harvester would be even better than that. And Apollo going to be chasing away. Oh, that Apollo gets blasted by 5 Bullfrogs, but he does manage to chase away that Twin Blade for just a little bit. Cryocopter can stay on the front line. This is 4 multi-gunner turrets as well. So walls coming up. They're not force fields, but they can provide a similar function. And where's the Crusher Crane? Because it would be worth getting a Crusher Crane just for the cashback on the Harvesters. Unless that's literally the only one. In that case, it's not. But the repairs that it provides also makes the Crusher Crane worth it. In this case, getting those units healed back up to full. Harvester just kind of hanging out. Okay, he is going to end up crushing it. And the Twin Blades have gotten a bit of cash, a bit of life back. Not full healing, but a bit of life back. And yeah, this is a much better first, 7.5 minutes or so from Classicnoob here. But now comes the decision point, because it looks like he's trying to take a 4th refinery on the water, but he needs to not let up the gas, because based on that first game, if opShijiao is let to just macro and build and play a slow macro game the way he wants, he will, it seems, absolutely out-snowball, out-big fight, out-play Classicnoob. So I think Classicnoob, to even things up, needs to not let that happen, because opShijiao had such a good game number 1 when he was allowed to do whatever he wanted that it looked like there was no hope. Megan and Twin Blade ends up going down. Did he just call in the satellites? No, it's just going to be a couple of air units flying over top. Satellite drop will eventually become something that the Allied player has to deal with. Fourth refinery going to be coming online, matching the economy of the Soviet player. It's not exactly just because the Soviet player got there so much faster, and opShijiao was able to extract meaningful value out of that fifth refinery for a time. But now, Classicnoob feels like opShijiao is starting to out-dance him, and he is starting to just run away with it. Where is this MCV going? This is now a bit of a questionable decision for opShijiao. He does have a powerful army, 27k of army supply. Part of that is MiGs, part of that is Bullfrogs, but, you know, on the other side, we do have some Apollos to match. Multi-gunner turret gets deployed. It's going to be matching the Tesla coil there on the high ground, and, of course, the Vindicators can come around to help out this Tesla coil. And honestly, just throw another bombing run at this MCV. I love the naval yard being deployed there. And we'll see what these... I feel like we're getting so spread out on the map, what these players choose to do. But this is great from opShijiao. Whether he wants to go all the way to Tier 3 or if he just uses that for an Akula sub or two, either one could be good. Twin Blades keeping this Apollo in place for now, trying to wait for the MiGs to show up. MiGs almost get the one tap on that Apollo, but it does manage to escape. Most of the walls have gone down. More walls can come in if needed. Hydrofoils are here, so it's easy to use a weapons jammer to shut some of these things down, and it looks like Classicnoob has picked up on this. opShijiao, he is trying to play a little bit sneaky towards the edge of the map, and I feel like it's not working out the way that he would have wanted. I feel like he might just end up kind of getting trapped, where he's spending a bunch of time and a bunch of effort. Bombs? One of the other bombs going to come through. Okay, there's the hydrofoil to weapons jam that Akula sub, and then the Riptide will be able to finish it off. Back on the land, hammer tanks moving in. Athena cannons, they have the artillery advantage, but Classicnoob is not playing aggressive. He is he's playing a very defensive style. I will let him come to me sort of thing. Akula sub going to be trading out versus the Riptides, and the shrink rate comes in. Hydrofoil pushing away the MiGs, which does keep that cryocopter safe, but it feels like the Athena cannons need to be doing more. It is difficult to control armies on opposite sides of the map and actually make the right decisions in both areas. Hydrofoil going to be keeping that cryocopter safe for now. Twin Blade's going to be coming in. This is 4 multi-gunner turrets. This does buy quite a bit of time, quite a bit of space for Classicnoob. 2 hammer tanks go down, a number of conscripts as well. Not a big deal. The conscripts, javelin soldiers protected by the Aegis shield. Twin Blade's not able to break through. There's going to be the cryo shot coming in, forcing the hammer tanks back. And all the while, there is a battle still fighting out on the water. Those bears get big damage done. Only 2 javelins survive, but they do survive. And the freeze comes through. Riptides, that's a dead MCV. I hope you've got a Chronosphere. No, he just sells it off. And there's going to be the engineer getting shot down, and there's going to be the flak cannon. Suddenly, this game is not going the way opShijiao wanted. That big snowball that was rolling down the hill, spring is springing, and it looks like the warm weather is getting to opShijiao. That being said, he does still have a massive army, and where we did see opShijiao actually win the game was with the big central fight. The setups were not the same, so this is not the same level of setup that he had versus his allied opponent in that last game, but he can still pull out a team fight win here as he brings his army to the front. Big army fights can be very chaotic and very difficult to handle. Bears come in, but they get locked down. Javelins and IFVs putting big damage into the Twin Blades and the Aegis shield, keeping everyone safe. This Soviet army doesn't have a good way to engage Toxin satellites. Something needs to be coming over the top to displace this allied army. For the current moment, the Athena cannon's getting lots of uptime. Javelin soldiers not going to be able to keep those Guardian tanks safe, as a couple of them end up going down, traded back for 2 hammer tanks on the other side. Weapons trading hands as well, as this Soviet army looks a little bit lost in its place. Bears coming in. They're going to drop right on top of the Javelin soldiers, and Twin Blades re-engaging. The fight coming apart piece by piece. Both armies taking big damage, but it feels like the Soviet army is falling apart faster. opShijiao taking damage other places on the map as well. And these hammer tanks, they can't just leech their way to victory. You need something besides bears raining down on this army, and the Twin Blades haven't found the killer engage yet. The Athena cannons still alive, 3 of them switching on and off their Aegis shields, keeping each other safe, and the Dolphin working away at that refinery there on the corner. Harvester already down or away, refinery sold off, and the game crumbling to pieces from opShijiao. A fantastic first 6 minutes or so, but then things have been going not his way. Because he had such a good start to the game, he does still have a chance here. I think some one-clicks coming in would be massive. The MCV snipe does limit that, and this is where he has to make a decision. Do you rebuild the MCV so you can get access to those one-clicks? Toxin, satellite drop coming in would have really changed the face of this fight, but without those tools, you have a lot less things that you can do as the Soviet player. Is it worth spending the $5,000 and the minute on the clock to rebuild your MCV? It might be, but if you can get the win with just the Twin Blades, then I guess that answer is no. As the Twin Blades move in, are there enough Apollos to respond to this? Because there sure are a lot of MiGs in this Air Force. Roaming around, Vindicator's going to be coming back. Reactor, Bullfrog getting bombed out there as the Apollo's trying to get into the fight, and the IFVs, they want to draw this fight out nice and long so they can pick off these Twin Blades one by one. The IFVs getting dogpiled, but there's still 5 of them remaining with the repairs. They can't be taken down quickly. The reverse move was good enough as they drive past that airfield getting repairs. And fortunately, it's just a Dolphin out there on the water. It's not a hydrofoil ready. And the Twin Blades waiting to receive them are Javelin soldiers. The Twin Blades already battered and bruised. They don't even get the Harvester, and only 2 Twin Blades escape alive, so low on health, and the GG comes out. Classicnoob will pick up the win on game number 2. No clean sweeps here. The upper bracket semifinals, we've got a series on our hands. What a difference between Game 1 and Game 2. Both of these players can take games. They are quite competitive. It really does just depend on who's able to execute better on that map in that moment. In the north, playing the orange allies, it's Classicnoob. And in the south, we have got ourselves a mirror matchup, playing random. This is opShijiao. Fire Island, but it's a mirror matchup, so no big advantage here for the allied player because they share the equal advantage. But which one of them wants to take over the middle of the map? I feel like this map doesn't play towards opShijiao's let's slow snowball macro and win. Let's like do this big cross map, take all of these expansions kind of thing, and then go for the win that way. He clearly thought he was going to be able to just do that again on Battle Base Beta, and it almost worked. If he had been able to get to that corner, the water expansion for Classicnoob a little bit faster, if Classicnoob had not been paying quite as much attention or something, maybe if that naval yard had gotten up a bit quicker or without notice, you could definitely see a world where opShijiao takes over that expansion, and then it is this big snowball that can't be stopped. But a couple of things did go differently in that game number 2, and now opShijiao actually does manage to get his own double oil derrick here at the start of the game. And with 4 peacekeepers with riot shields right here at the front, if Classicnoob has gone double engineer to try and take both of these oil derricks away from his opponent, he may be in a very bad sort. We know there's an engineer and a javelin soldier inside of this one Riptide, and he has not sent that guy back home. He hasn't even tried to swap the engineer into the higher health Riptide. So is he just going to die to the Vindicators because they are coming back in? And that is a low health Riptide. That's going to be it. The Riptide absorbs the damage. opShijiao does not manage to snipe that engineer. And, well, Javelin soldiers are going to be able to get some free damage onto this other Vindicator, the triple Vindicator opener. Almost some big losses there from opShijiao, but he has managed to keep alive every single one of his Vindicators. Double power plant out there on the water, spread out quite nicely to make sure that he can't be quickly eliminated. Third refinery up and running here for Classicnoob. He went for the naval yard. He went for the Riptides. He has not been able to take either of those oil derricks away from his opponent. So opShijiao does still have a hold of them. And this third refinery, it's going to pay big dividends eventually for Classicnoob, but it's not yet paying those big dividends. opShijiao almost going to be able to just burst down this refinery. If he had a few more Peacekeepers, that actually could have worked if the Vindicator bombs and the Peacekeepers were synced up a little bit more, but he's got 5 Peacekeepers over here. Maybe some other Peacekeepers got cleaned up a little bit earlier. Vindicators might have an opportunity to stop this engineer as it heads towards that oil derrick. Will he notice? He's beelining for that refinery. There we go. Second bombing run comes in, but he saves one left over. No, he didn't. He didn't save a bomb for the engineer. So actually, the oil derrick does get taken. I'd still rather have the refinery be killed off and let the engineer capture. So in that sense, opShijiao has made the right call. He's got 4 refineries of his own. He just nuked his opponent's third refinery. opShijiao is feeling really good, but here comes trouble as Classicnoob has brought his MCV to this fight. It's not a fair fight, but it is going to be a bloody one as he is camping out on the front lawn. Double multi-gunner turret. This is a great setup, though, from opShijiao. It can be broken. This is a lot of Javelin soldiers, and all they need is a little bit of time to do their work. That's a lot of laser locks on these buildings. Refinery gets sold off immediately. MCV has taken so much damage, though, and that might be the thing that breaks this attack. Classicnoob trying desperately to get his MCV away from the front line, but his own battering ram is headed in. The GG comes out, and Classicnoob will be defeated in the Allied Mirror matchup. It's an Allied map. Snowplow for game number 4. I guess it is a bit of a roll of the dice. If your opponent picks random and you know you're going to be allies, do you get a mirror matchup again, or do you get maybe an advantage? In the north, looking for that advantage, down 1-2. This is Classicnoob. And how did the dice roll this time? It's the Empire. This is opShijiao. opShijiao still rolls the dice even on Snowplow, and it ends up Empire versus Allies. Now, maybe it'll be fine. You know, this map can play out fairly normally, but we'll see how opShijiao and Classicnoob choose to play this one out. It does feel a bit like I'm an Allied player, so I'm going to play the most Allied-favored map. And, you know, your opponent is playing random, so you have a pretty good chance of it working out, a two-thirds chance of it working out in your favor. Engineer headed up to the high ground. The dog is waiting. The dog is barking. Bye-bye to that engineer, and that is the kind of opener that Classicnoob would like to have. That's gonna get right past security. Nothing suspicious here. That's just a cool Vindicator flying on the ground as the sudden transport rolls forward. Is going to get spotted, I think, by this dog. So we'll see if Classicnoob is paying attention. He does have a couple of air units rolling around, and the dog does spot it. Vindicators are kind of in a fight with those Tengus. Are they going to swing over to the right side? No, they're happy to just play this one out. Apollo's going for the Tengus. 2 Tengus down, and the Apollos both survive. That's enough. 3 Tengus down for the allied player is feeling good. That's a crazy start for Classicnoob. Triple Tengu kill. Maybe a Javelin Soldier picked off here. Where's that sudden transport going? That guy's looking for greener pastures, but he's forgotten that he's on a snow map. Even the Javelin Soldier survives, and I didn't actually see what was inside of that sudden transport. That is a weird one, because if it's an engineer, he might have been thinking, can I sneak an engineer over and capture the MCV? But if it's 5 tank busters, he doesn't have a whole lot to buy time. Tengu goes down. At least there's only 2 Vindicators. There's not 3 Vindicators. So the tank busters, it's an engineer! And the MCV just packs up. Javelin Soldier getting some shots, but now the Vindicators, they need to just refuel, rearm, and get over here to bomb out this sudden transport. As soon as you reveal that there's an engineer inside of that guy, yeah, it's an easy kill for the allied player. $1,000 spent on engineers by opShijiao, and nothing to show for it. 3 or 4 Tengus going down here before the 4-minute mark. And if you add all of those things together, that's nearly $5 grand of stuff that just disappeared off the map, and that the Empire player has nothing to show for it. Oil derrick captured by the allied player. Classicnoob has his refinery all set up. And once again, don't be deceived. That is not a random prospector driving across the map. But the second airfield is here. opShijiao goes straight into Tier 2. It does give him some more options, but one of the advantages of going into Tier 2 is you can use the Tengu VX duality, the ability of those 2 units to swap modes. But like when you lost all of your Tengus already, you don't have a lot of that agility. You don't have a lot of the advantage that you would normally get from that unit combination, because you just don't have a lot of units. Vindicator taking some damage. That's a free one. Okay. opShijiao putting some points on the board here, and he is going to pick up 1 extra kill there. It doesn't totally disrupt the fight for Classicnoob, who needs to go Tier 2 or get a War Factory out. He needs to start moving the game along a little bit further. Okay. He believes in the macro game as well. He wants to set up his little 4 refineries here, and that can be quite a defensible location because he has kept the Empire forces a little bit low in number. The Empire army is quite literally lower than the Allied army. Because of that, you can potentially take this 4th expansion. I would be a little bit worried about the 4th expansion before Tier 2, and so is Classicnoob, so he is going to get that Tier 2. He can potentially drop a naval yard, have assault destroyers as a safety. He can try and go cryocopters if he wants the more active unit to shrink and freeze. But now he has a few more tools to deal with any kind of attack that's coming in while he's getting that 4th refinery up and running. Cryo shot going to be firing off. It does do enough to freeze that dojo, and breaking this building, that's good for the first step. 2 Vindicators going down, though. 3 Vindicators. That is costly for the allied player, and maybe he's overplayed his hand. 2 multi-gunner turrets will help hold this front line down, and the Chopper VXs, they can't do much when they're on the ground. 1 Tsunami tank will end up going down, traded back for 1 multi-gunner turret, but what does Classicnoob have to hold off the next wave of this attack? His Vindicators all went down in that first fight, and the MCV forced to pack up. He doesn't have more multi-gunner turrets to add on. The Empire player is playing the army game, and the allied player is playing the economy game. A fourth refinery doesn't do you much good if you can't keep the units out of your base. Imperial warriors rushing forward, slicing and dicing those javelins. This is turned into a disaster for Classicnoob, who had such a good setup and then lost everything to a big wave of rockets from these strikers. He's trying to trap the strikers there. He's trying to go for just mass crush. He's actually going to get 2 tsunami tanks basically for nothing, and a couple of more strikers go down. A Vindicator gets traded in response, but in this case, that's fantastic for Classicnoob. He actually got something done with his units. He didn't just fall apart, but he loses another Vindicator. I guess he's got the bank account to support all of these losses, because that's a lot of dead units for the allied player, and the striker will end up going down. But the Harvester gets cleaned up, and that was a disaster for Classicnoob. But he did a lot of army damage. There's the difference maker. That's why things are survivable. He must have scouted the MCV, got sold off. He must have realized that this was a bit of an all-in play from the Empire player. That reshapes things a little bit here, because you know that you don't have point defense drones to worry about, and you know that your opponent is not going for any kind of expansion behind this. He might be rebuilding his MCV now, but opShijiao that was kind of it. I didn't realize how overplayed he was in his hand. Those 4 kills, the 2 tsunami tanks getting crushed and the 2 strikers getting bombed out, actually were critical kills, in the same way that Classicnoob losing the 3 Vindicators almost doomed his entire game. Losing those 4 key units in that place without doing any additional damage actually kind of doomed opShijiao's attack. Now the Striker gonna get away from the multi-gunner turret. Striker goes down, tsunami tanks down below half HP, and there's gonna be the Transform to save one of those Strikers, but not the other one. A Vindicator still traded back, but the Apollos are on the hunt. Can they find the angle to kill off this VX? Has the timer run out? No, he does not transform. The Strikers go down. Classicnoob pulling this one out. The GG comes out, and opShijiao almost pulls an amazing comeback in this game. He almost pulls it off, but it doesn't go his way, and Classicnoob ends up getting the win, but that was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. opShijiao, a formidable opponent, and Classicnoob still manages to get the win. And that'll send us on to Cabana Republic for our next tiebreaker. On the left, once again, drawing the allies. This is opShijiao. And on the right side, playing the orange allies as always, it's Classicnoob. All right, we have got a big ol' map here, one that is sometimes known for its allies' cheese. But in this case, with a double allies, are we going to get to see that same level of cheese? The answer is no, at least not from opShijiao. Okay, both players are walling in their refineries, so it looks like they're not going for maximum cheese, where they go just one refinery. So we are at least getting double refinery from both players. Peacekeepers on their way out. Engineer as well. Dog gets spotted, and Classicnoob actually wins the dogfight up there in the north. opShijiao does take the doggy L on that one, but Classicnoob didn't move his dog over. So even if the engineer had been blind running at the front, it wouldn't matter. The dog didn't actually move over. But we do have, once again, allies here, so I guess with the snowplow game, that does mean opShijiao has hit all 3 factions in this series. I think there was a series in qualifiers where he 3-0'd someone, and he randomly drew, or no, that actually might have been DDF. It was either opShijiao or DDF. One of them 3-0'd someone in a best of 5, one with each of the factions, which is always nice to see. That's like the ultimate win. You're playing random. Although some players do say random is an advantage, and so in that case, maybe it's not the ultimate win. But it is the ultimate win as the viewer to get to see all 3 matchups, and then a particular player wins all 3 of them handily. Nice 3-0 there. Are we getting third refineries? Okay. Temple Prime Reloaded is the map with the most money on it. But Cabana Republic in the original map pool is the big map. When there were only 7 maps that were played in tournaments, Cabana Republic is the big map. But in the modern day, it's not necessarily the big map. It is still a big map, but it's not the big map anymore. And yeah, we are getting ourselves a macro-oriented game. Look at those timings, so nice from both players. They both got their oil. They both got their oil derrick. A little bit of a handshake there. And then look at this. The Vindicators actually spot the Prospector heading out for a high ground expansion. So the Vindicators basically get a perfect scout on everything that Classicnoob is wanting to do. And they bomb out a power plant at the same time. So that does slow down Classicnoob a little bit here. He's going to have to rebuild that power plant. He's going to have to add on an additional power plant as he expands. He's probably going to get either a barracks or a naval yard to follow up this airfield. And then he'll need the additional power plant with that refinery coming up. There's just lots of things that need to be powered and need to be online. And there we go. The expansion also coming up here for opShijiao. Scout comes in, the Apollo, a bit late from Classicnoob because he did go for that very delayed airfield compared to his opponent. And we got the double dog coming in for the engineer steal of that oil derrick. Both players definitely a bit macro-oriented. There should be javelins inside of at least one of these riptides, which means this MCV could be taking big damage if the javelins can get the uptime. We shall see, though, as this Apollo is just taking massive damage, though. Vindicator's going to be taking a lot of damage. Javelin soldiers will be able to get a couple of kills here. Riptide's going down, and now Classicnoob has sort of left his units on the other side of the map. Run, run, run! Run from that MCV, and the sharp corner does mean a couple of them will go down. The Vindicators helping with the cleanup. The Cryocopter gets spotted, and sort of everything going opShijiao's way. Okay, not everything. Not everything is going opShijiao's way as he walks his dogs off to the right and then lets his engineer just walk into a random peacekeeper there. Classicnoob also picking up the kill on a harvester as well, so looking for his own 4th refinery, at the same time harassing his opponent's harvesters, and the Cryocopter is going to be backing off from that Freezy Ray. Apollos will win the fight, though, for opShijiao. So Classicnoob has to give up the fight, and that is a Cryocopter going down. So now Classicnoob, who was looking okay with that kill on the harvester, now looks a bit silly as he loses multiple Apollos and a Cryocopter all in that exchange. Double airfield going to be the choice for Classicnoob. opShijiao blocking that refinery location. The dog coming online to block that, and it's going to be a water expansion out here in the north for opShijiao. He is once again looking to get that big macro snowball rolling, and we'll see if he's actually able to pull it off, because Classicnoob has done a pretty good job of responding to that big macro snowball style. And meanwhile, on the south side of the map, Vindicator moving in. Cryo shot plus a Cryocopter, 2-in-1 combo, and the Harvester is not going to get locked in a place where it is safe from that cryo shot from the sky. Double Harvester kill. Drops the bombs. Apollo goes down as well. Okay. Classicnoob pulling out some good moves here and actually able to successfully harass his opponent. Double Harvester kill. It is made up for a bit by the additional harvesters in the north. So by killing off 2 harvesters, Classicnoob has just sort of evened up the economy. And now 1 harvester back online and the other harvester moments away. So Classicnoob, has he done enough? Because it feels like opShijiao just needs a little bit more time, and then he will have caught up on the army front. He'll start building a bigger, better ground army, and he will be able to deal with anything that Classicnoob throws at him. Classicnoob, I don't think, has scouted up in the north. I don't think he knows about those refineries up there. He's a little bit unknowing. And one thing that we do have to say for opShijiao in this game is he has taken over so many buildings on this map. He has taken over so many of these buildings that he has such good vision between the oil derrick, his expansion, all of the buildings he's taken. He has vision on a huge amount of the map. Also, the expansion up here also giving him vision. It's like he can see 50% of the map area the entire time. And, you know, 30% of the map is water. So he can just see an enormous amount of the map. He has very good intel on his opponent's buildings and movements, even if he doesn't always know what he's going on inside of his opponent's base. As soon as Classicnoob steps out onto the field, opShijiao knows about it. Good Apollo fight here. Both players managing their Apollos well in the first part of that fight, and it looks like Classicnoob will be winning the fight. Nope. opShijiao pulls out a couple of kills right at the end there, and both players going back and forth. Multi-gunner turret is going to get frozen down here. Peacekeeper actually dies, so that one wasn't close enough to get the shot if the freeze finished up, and the freeze does force that unit, that building, to be sold off. But the economy graph is what we're looking at. Look at that, so close together for the first 6 or 7 minutes of the game, and then after that, like 6-minute, 30-second mark, we have got ourselves a big tip towards red, as opShijiao is going to have a massive eco advantage, and Classicnoob, he really needs to send an Apollo scouting around the map. He's got double cryocopter. He does have some options here. It's going to be Peacekeepers, Javelins, a double barracks on the front line for the allied player. And this, is it really going to be just big infantry armies on both sides? It's infantry air armies for both players. We need some Javs. We need some IFVs getting into the mix, maybe even a hydrofoil if he wants to go naval yard, but one of these players needs to do something to tip the air fight into their favor. Multi-gunner turret and a fresh barracks onto the front line. There are so many peacekeepers, a lot of them are in these buildings, but there are so many peacekeepers for both players that depending on, you know, how many dogs you've got, you can't even get a dog close because they've got so many shotguns ready to go. Vindicator going to be flying out over these expansions. I think the vision will just sort of see that there are expansions up there, and now the Apollo's coming in. The real scouting unit for the allied player going to be able to find something there. Assault Destroyer is here. There's a lot of Javs, so that black hole armor might be a bit of a problem for Classicnoob, because as soon as those laser lock comes in from opShijiao, then that harvester, then that aircraft carrier, that assault destroyer is going to be going down. There you go. You can see the black hole armor has to be turned off basically immediately. Freeze comes in, freezes the harvester, but a couple of bombs actually just go into the refinery there, and the command hub will be shut down as well with the freezy ray of those cryocopters. And okay, if you lose the Apollo fight, but can you kill the cryocopters? Because they're the real thing that matters. Apollo versus Apollos. And it looks like barely, the fight will be won by the multi-gunner turret. The damage on the ground as the Apollos come back in to re-engage. But down in the south, the cryo shot going to be firing off. Maybe Classicnoob can win the fight down here. If he can't win the fight up top, the Javelin's not going to be able to do anything because the Peacekeepers are taking the front line. The laser lock comes in from Classicnoob, and there comes the second assault destroyer. Black hole armor is difficult to deal with when there's two of them. The Javelins have all gone down on the side of opShijiao. He may have kept his base up north, but can he keep his base down south? Classicnoob calls off the attack. He cleared out a little bit of space, but he's not moving any further forward just yet. Multi-gunner turret deploys. Dolphin is here as well. opShijiao is not going to easily be able to match the Navy forces of his opponent. The Navy will remain an advantage for Classicnoob for now. opShijiao still has an incredibly powerful armed force here in the middle. So many infantry out on the field. It is crazy. The army value advantage for one player over the other. And I'm not sure how much of that is actually in these buildings. There we go. Army value advantage. There's a 3K army. There's a 3K income per minute advantage for opShijiao. But there's the army value advantage for opShijiao, tracking quite nicely along with that eco graph. And now the multi-gunner turret's going to be getting bombed. Down Dolphins, doing a bit of damage here. Vindicator bombs come in, but, you know, there's not much that they can do versus the Black Hole Armor when they're only dropping a couple of bombs at a time. Dolphins backing away. And for now, multi-gunner turret's getting shut down. opShijiao's MCV under threat, and get a couple more Dolphins into this fight. One more Hydrofoil as well, and he can hang out for quite a while. Cryo Blast going to be firing off. Everybody avoids it for now. Is this an opportunity for opShijiao to actually do something? Because if not, he's just lost a big tool out of his toolkit, and he did not get very much for it. He has retaken this frontline area. He's got the bigger bank account. He should be able to win a straight-up war of attrition, but that Cryo Blast, Cryogeddon, that can be an absolute game changer in these pretty even fights when both sides have just a ton of units out on the map. If one side has a Cryoblast and the other one just used it and didn't get anything for it, it might be game over in one big fight. MCV has backed off onto the land, not going to be fighting the Dolphins. Another multi-gunner turret, a good network of multi-gunner turrets being built up here. And opShijiao, he's finally got out that naval yard, those naval forces. He's going to be forcing the fight. Black Hole Armor going to be a big advantage here for Classicnoob. Nope. Okay, so the Dolphin, once again, the Cryoblast just does nothing. So everybody drives forward, and because of the Black Hole Armor, the Cryoblast really can't find any value. And then, yeah, the Black Hole Armor, which should have been an advantage for Classicnoob, opShijiao already had the laser lock set up. Assault Destroyer goes down basically before the fight breaks out, and now the big bank account of opShijiao it remains his advantage. He has got the income advantage. He's got the army value advantage. Dolphins moving in. Is this just going to be a big naval battle? Perhaps just a lot of Dolphins all fighting together for opShijiao, and maybe he just wins the fight on the... He just GG comes out, and opShijiao takes another game, puts another point on the board. We didn't really get to see the big final fight in that last game, but we are off to the races, and we are off to industrial strength here for game number 6 in the north, down 2-3. This is Classicnoob. And in the south, the blue looking good with those big macro games. This is opShijiao. Back and forth in the scoreline, even the individual games. Like that last one, Classicnoob was the first to move in a couple of those fights and got some big wins, but ultimately, once again, it was the big economy, the big advantage for opShijiao was his bank account. Just like that game number 1, what he tried to do in some of these other games as well. And now we do have another allied mirror matchup. And if it goes like that last one, then opShijiao is going to be feeling good about that. But this is a very different kind of a map because of how closed in your main base is, but because of this high ground, you can... industrial strength can lead to some very weird games. It can be a very turret push friendly map because of how far that build radius can reach into these walls. But then because your base is surrounded by this high ground and javelin soldiers are very good on that high ground, you can end up with some very weird games. You can end up with one player really utilizing that high ground very heavily. And in this case, both players have gone for that airfield, so they will at least have a bit of vision. They can potentially see onto that high ground and see what their opponent is doing. But okay, Classicnoob says, let's go. It is all-out aggression. It is not a tier 2 build, though. It is a turret push build. He wants to work through this south side of this map. There are javelin soldiers and there are peacekeepers. Only one jav on the north side, though. But Classicnoob is saying, let's work through this game quickly. Let's make it a fast one. And he is up against a player who is on the verge of match point. Vindicators getting guard dogged by those Apollos in the sky. Javelin soldiers are going to have to be brought back. And at this point, if he abandons course, if he changes course now, Classicnoob will just be sort of giving a prime timing for a third refinery to opShijiao. A couple of Javelin soldiers going to be returning back. They will scare away those Apollos for now. Vindicator's going to be trying to come in, do some damage. Apollo is going to get some shots off, and the Javelin gets the kill before the Peacekeepers eat them away. And the Peacekeepers, they win the day, but it almost doesn't matter if the Vindicator survives. This Harvester coming for the hero crush. opShijiao looking somewhere else on the map, trying to shut Classicnoob down over here. He loses his Peacekeeper, loses his Apollos, and now the Vindicators can move around the map however they wish. Multi-gunner turrets from both players. Peacekeepers get the breakdown on the first one from opShijiao, but they both eliminate each other's multi-gunner turret. On the army front, because of those additional infantry units going down, splash damage there onto his Conyard, the army advantage is held by Classicnoob. It is spread out pretty far, but both players' armies are spread out pretty far. The big difference is Classicnoob killed those 2 extra Apollos. So opShijiao, he spent $2 grand building those Apollos very early on in this game, and opShijiao is feeling the pressure. He says, I've got to go, 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 and he loses both of the Vindicators. Classicnoob deploys his own multi-gunner turret. He is not looking to just gun down this game. He wants to play a little bit slow, a little bit defensive. He knows he just got the kill on those Vindicators, and now he walls off the Peacekeepers. They get sent all the way around. opShijiao isn't able to get them through the front door. The walls are not open. The Peacekeeper comes on out, and that's a double building sell-off. opShijiao is ransacking his own base to try and get enough units to kill off the attacking forces. Classicnoob is turning this game to chaos, but he is stopping opShijiao from rolling that big snowball. You want 3 refineries? How about just 1? And it's outside of your main base. The multi-gunner turret won't be able to defend those Javelin soldiers, and Classicnoob has successfully executed Plan Chaos. He has brought disorder to this game. The command hub does manage to establish. He gets that prospector into the command hub. I guess it doesn't really matter. I thought his MCV was maybe a little bit further out where the build radius would be more useful, but in this case, the build radius isn't actually necessary. This is just trying to get a bit of value. And are you kidding me? As soon as the Harvester gets deployed, that's a full freeze, baby. As Classicnoob throws the game into disarray, he makes the game plan of opShijiao fall to pieces, and he is reaping the benefits with his 2 working Harvesters back in his base. Normally, 2 Harvesters and an oil derrick is sort of a starting place to work from, but in this place, it kind of means that Classicnoob is a rich guy. He's up 4K over his opponent in a low eco game. The Harvester survives from one location, and the refinery survives in the other location. And now this Harvester from opShijiao is moving forward. It's low power mode for the blue allied player, and taking this oil derrick is perhaps the only thing keeping him in this game. I don't even know that that's going to be enough to keep him in this game. He is getting the scout on his opponent too slow. I don't know if he was hoping to actually block off that ore refinery location, but he won't be able to get it even with that. And he did spend the cash to rebuild that Harvester. I imagine what he really would have liked to do is to save this Harvester and get it into that refinery. Is he going to have a little bit of build radius? Both refineries, okay. Mr. Big Eco, Classicnoob, is going for the double refinery play when he really does need to be shutting down this command hub to deny the build radius. Where are his Vindicators? He needs a couple of more Vindicators to come in, but they aren't here. Maybe you should have spent, instead of spending the 2 grand on that refinery, you should have made safe your base, and he is doing that now. opShijiao has to try and find a way to fight back in this game, which he is about to get dominated on the economy front. Cryo shot will be firing off. It's a nice attempt here from opShijiao. You got to do something. You have to try something. It was a low percentage play to get both Vindicators frozen on the deck there and then deploy a multi-gunner turret and kill them off. But it doesn't matter. The GG comes out, and Classicnoob once again, always trailing by 1, but seemingly always able to even up the score. And that will send us to Temple Prime Reloaded for yet another tiebreaker and yet another Allied Mirror matchup. On the left side, rocking the purple, it's opShijiao. And on the right side, of course, playing the orange, give it up for Classicnoob. With how opShijiao has been playing in this series, this feels like the absolute perfect map for him. But we have also seen Classicnoob responding to some of the greedy plays of opShijiao. Not even that opShijiao has been playing that greedy. It has just been a little bit greedy on a couple of the games. And in some games, Classicnoob has sort of tried to match him on the eco plays. But will he predict that opShijiao is going to play greedy, or are they going to try and fake each other out? MCV goes for a slight reposition from Classicnoob, and now opShijiao is chasing away Classicnoob's dog. He wants to make the map dark for Classicnoob. Dog gets taken down. Scout is denied. Is it a naval yard and an airfield coming up? Oh, the naval yard is already done. So it should not be another naval yard. But he deploys the airfield there on the north side. And that would be in range if he decides to go for a northern expansion. Classicnoob comes in for the confirmation scout. Both players are angling towards a double expand in the north. opShijiao hasn't gotten there just yet, but overall, it is looking like it's going to be a big macro game once again. opShijiao has won those pretty much every single time. Classicnoob and opShijiao. Ooh, this airfield location is not going to be picking up the tier 2. If he decides to keep his MCV there, he will not be providing tier 2 to that airfield. Riptide goes down. Vindicators get a bombing run in. Other Vindicators returning from the north, a little bit worse for wear, as an Apollo has taken a bit of damage as well. Some fighting happening off screen. opShijiao has been fully pushed back, though. He pulls back to the high ground, and this barracks from Classicnoob is keeping him in the game. The Javelin soldiers landing a couple of shots against the Apollos, and it looks like, once again, it's big Vindicator play from Classicnoob and a big Apollo play from opShijiao. In theory, this could be a big win for opShijiao, but these Javelin soldiers are holding off the Apollos, so Classicnoob is actually doing okay. He's not just getting dumpstered by the forces of opShijiao. Vindicators coming in a little bit too close to those Apollos, but they've got Javelin soldiers to back them up. This is the 1-2 punch that makes Bullfrog Twinblade so powerful, and now it is double expansion in the North Naval Yard, the choice for Classicnoob. opShijiao sold off his naval yard. He picked up a couple of Riptides, and then he sold that off. Vindicators almost getting bullied away from their own airfield because of where those Apollos were sitting. They're going to try and catch the Vindicators as they come back through. They're going to get one almost for sure. That's basically for free. If they can escape from here, don't fly over the Javelin soldiers. They're going to look to re-engage. Okay, they're heading home, heading south. Vindicators should be safe. Dolphin out on the map. harassment will begin. What do we have from opShijiao? He had packed up his MCV. He's got one Riptide, and he's also got a Harvester on the run. He doesn't even wait. He deploys it immediately. The Dolphin pulls off. The attack comes through. Vindicators have made it back home. One or two of them, at least, are safe. Apollo has replaced one of the other ones, and it's going to be a Vindicator in response. Jump comes in a little bit too early. Vindicator can come in for the bombing run, but guess what? There's another one ready. The Dolphin comes in. The Dolphin gets a kill. The delayed naval yard paying off big time for Classicnoob. opShijiao hasn't yet gotten the runway to launch his big macro game. It does feel like this game is going to slip out of control for Classicnoob if he can't pull off some kind of slowing down opShijiao. opShijiao has been so good in the macro game. He's been so good with his armies. Even on Deep Sea, where he was at a tech disadvantage against the artillery of Classicnoob and playing Hammer Tank Twin Blade into Athena cannons and getting, like, blasted on multiple sides of the map, he was still handling himself very well, all things considered, but Classicnoob did outplay him in that particular game. Peacekeepers, Javs, Vindicators all looking to come in for a big fight in the middle of the map. Hydrofoils will be able to shut down one of the Vindicators. Weapons Jammer on the Prospector just to make sure he can't return fire. Vindicators come in, double bombing run, no jump from opShijiao. Dolphins get the damage done, and once again, these weapons jammers just making sure that there isn't anything coming out that can deal with the Dolphins easily from opShijiao. He does have his own Dolphins here to respond, and it is going to be reinforcements coming in from Classicnoob. Once again, he's getting the drop on opShijiao. Two fronts at the same time. Peacekeepers picking off their opponents on the other side, and you would have hoped that you would have won one of the fights. Classicnoob manages to win both of the fights. Somebody fired off a cryo shot for no effect. It did not actually cause anything of significance. Cryo shot should be answered back on the other side. Two players should have them. Vindicators come in. It's just a GG. opShijiao falling apart at the 4th refinery. Classicnoob finally picks up a win ahead of his opponent. opShijiao, his back is against the wall. No more mistakes left. And after all the back and forth, we finally arrive here in game number 8. The actual match point scenario. It has been delayed as long as it possibly can, but we're either going to the ace match or we are going into the next video. On the left side, rocking the orange, this is Classicnoob. And on the right side, down 3-4, he needs your cheers. Give it up for opShijiao. opShijiao getting the outplay in most of the games, but now the shoe is on the other foot, and we go from the big macro map to the fastest third map. This is the map that most likely in the pool that players are most likely to go for a very fast third refinery on. When you're playing Allies, when you're playing Soviets, it's usually maybe kind of a tie with Battle Base Beta. That map players also like a quick third refinery. But if you're going Empire, there has been such a strong trend of third refinery builds on this map in particular. And then, of course, we see Allied and Soviet players often matching it. Okay, we saw this in the last game as well. Naval Yard versus Airfield. That's a lot of Javelin soldiers. This is quite an investment from the Allied player. And opShijiao, if he's going for the water expansion, you can set up your little 4 refinery system right here, and you can have a really solid base to play from. And then, of course, it's mirrored on the other side, and it kind of looks like both players are doing that. Vindicator is out. Has he over-indexed into anything? No, it looks like it's double Vindicator. If he had also gone double Apollo, then that's just $2,000 spent that's not doing anything. But the Vindicators can, at least in theory, accomplish something. Apollos obviously can't accomplish anything if your opponent hasn't gone Airfield. Classic Noob deploys a beacon there. Vindicator steps forward. Javelin Soldier's a little bit too slow on that one to get many shots off. Riptide does back off. Naval Yard not sold off immediately. In that last game, that was a corner that was cut by opShijiao. He sold his Naval Yard immediately after 2 Riptides, and in this case, he has kept it around, so he can potentially go for more Riptides. He could even try to sneak out a Dolphin if he suspects that his opponent is going for the refinery. Big kill there with that Riptide going down. You want to answer back with something, and getting a whole Vindicator in exchange for 1 Riptide is going to be leaving opShijiao feeling good. Okay, these Vindicators, they are on the dancing on the edge there. If they move in and they kill a Riptide full of units, then that is not an instant game win, but man, that's an amazing feeling. Whereas, if they just swoop in and the Javelin Soldiers are too fast, then the Vindicator just goes down without getting much in return. Dolphin v. Dolphin there in the south. Riptides coming out as well. Naval Yard here for both players. 4th Refinery on the field for opShijiao, not yet for Classic Noob. Riptide's moving forward. Classic Noob taking a couple of these buildings in the middle of the map, but opShijiao has the stronger position with the Javelin Soldiers outside of his opponent's base. Riptides take a couple of bombs. Okay, that's 1 Riptide down before the fight has even really started. Is he just going to have to get out of town? He walks in with 3 Riptides, and then he immediately is down to just 2. You do not want to get caught with all of your Javelin Soldiers not having a way to exit. And okay, opShijiao says, you know what? We will fight another day. We will play this one out a little bit slower, and that probably is the right call here. Airfield already up and running. Slight eco advantage here for opShijiao. Riptides. Ooh, is this a free kill for opShijiao? Pushing down the Riptide. That's very frustrating. He does finally get the kill. He had to dive a little bit further to get it. Dive might not be the right term for whatever Riptides are doing. He had to hover a little bit further, but okay. That's a couple of little wins there for opShijiao, starting to stack up in his favor. If he picks up another kill on a Vindicator, that would also be a nice advantage for opShijiao. Okay, the Apollos do pull back. Infantry in these buildings, a couple of Peacekeepers just providing vision and awareness. That's a nice move by Classic Noob. We saw on Cabana Republic, opShijiao just taking over so much of the map with those buildings. Apollos pushing forward. Riptides on the front line. This is quite a few Javelin Soldiers as well. They get back inside of the Riptides. Bombing runs coming in. Decent amount of fire back. The Apollos aren't in a position to punish anymore, but it will be 1 Vindicator for 1 Riptide. A fair trade between these 2 players. 5 refineries up and running for opShijiao. 5 Harvesters up and running, you could say, for Classic Noob. He doesn't actually have it working. It is working on getting an expansion. 7 Javelin Soldiers getting caught out in the middle here by just 4 Riptides. This could turn into a good fight for Classic Noob. It's starting out okay for opShijiao, but now it's turning bad for opShijiao with 2 more Riptides going down on the red side. He should have a numbers advantage here, but more and more units are streaming across the map, and those Vindicators have gone unanswered for the current moment. Double cryo shot going to be firing off. Barracks for nothing on the other side. And a Riptide gets caught. The barracks as well. But opShijiao defends well against it and gets his units out alive. Okay, the freeze does come through, but the bombs were not split. So 1 Riptide goes down. The other one will escape for now. And Dolphins coming through, trying to pick up a kill. They're going to be able to do some damage to this Harvester. They're going to sacrifice themselves. One of them, they both actually survive. Are you kidding? The Dolphins managed to escape. The Harvester goes down. That was a bit of a heist for... Okay, maybe not. A Vindicator coming through. What's going to be the kill count at the end of the day? I guess 1 Dolphin should be going down there. Nice bomb splitting from opShijiao. It was almost a heist from Classic Noob, but he ends up still paying a bit of a price for it, and Apollo traded back in a different skirmish. Refinery finally up and running. It is a bit of an income advantage here for opShijiao, but that is going to level off as they both have their 5 refineries up and running, and as opShijiao has taken a bit of harvester harassment. Faster refinery, a little bit offset by having to rebuild a harvester, losing the mining time, all of that sort of stuff. But okay, that earlier engagement, it could have gone really bad for opShijiao, but it didn't. It almost did, but it didn't. That cryo shot, if it had been placed a little bit differently for Classicnoob, he might have been able to do a little bit more damage. Dolphins coming out on both sides. In the south, opShijiao gets blocked, but in the north, it looks like Classicnoob is going to get another harvester kill. How many dolphins will go down in the exchange? Because if he loses all of the dolphins, then suddenly it doesn't feel like it's nearly as worth it. Build radius will be denied. Riptide's coming in. I don't think any Vindicators are here just yet from opShijiao, but he has a lot of Riptides, and he has not started that harvester back up yet. So he is going to be losing the full build time of that harvester. Riptide coming in to harass opShijiao, seeing the harassment of his opponent and deciding to match it. A bit of a forgotten thing here in the north, as opShijiao will lose that Riptide up there, and Classicnoob manages to pick up one more little advantage. Can he keep stacking them? Because opShijiao, he has his big eco setup. It's just not working as well as he would like. Bit of a war of attrition in the middle of the map. No one has grabbed a hospital just yet, with how much infantry has played such a big role in, like, 4 out of these 7 games. Infantry has been absolutely key to the way both players played in, like, 4 of the 7 games. You should expect that a hospital would be a valuable tech structure for these players to grab. Big miss here from opShijiao. Of course, if it's intentional, he should have just sold off that refinery. But I think he will notice, and he will realize. Vindicator's actually just bombing out their opposite number on the deck. The Vindicator goes down. That will pay dividends into the future. Dolphin moving in the north. Classicnoob has to defend against that, and he doesn't have anything ready just yet. And there is going to be the harvester deploying into the command hub basically immediately. Riptides playing on the edge. Apollo's walking over, going to make sure that no Vindicators are coming to hunt down that Dolphin, and sooner or later opShijiao will realize. But that's where killing off your opponent's harvester, instead of giving you a bit of an advantage, it really just evens things out a bit. The big tragedy here is opShijiao has just forgotten or misclicked it or something, and it's not even a bugged harvester, which we do sometimes see here in Red Alert 3, and it does cause problems. Big fight on the south side. No laser locks to take advantage of the black hole armor feature. It does feel a bit like, hey, that's not how that's supposed to work. I didn't want you to just grab those rockets that aren't going to go anywhere. I want you to grab the rockets that are actually going to do some damage. Riptides not needed up there in the north. The Vindicators were there in case there was something on the ground like a Riptide or a Dolphin, but it was just Apollos. And both players decide to back off. Hydrofoil moves in. The multi-gunner turret is a good choice, but this is going to be 3 Dolphins traded for this 1 harvester. It gets restarted immediately, and opShijiao still not realizing. So now with another harvester going down, things are going to be looking even better here for Classicnoob. Dolphin on the north side will meet a multi-gunner turret, but that'll just be more of a delay than anything. The Dolphin can find an angle to harass that northern expansion, even with the multi-gunner turret here. And these Riptides chasing these Dolphins down. I can't believe how far those Dolphins actually managed to get out. Doesn't get the kill there, and the Riptide will be able to get the kill. Vindicator responds. Dolphin ends up going down. Apollo's trying to hunt those Vindicators, but with the help of the multi-gunner turret, that's a 3v2 on the Apollo front, but the 2 win the fight. They had the help of a multi-gunner turret. Riptide Javelin moving in. Airfield under threat. No way to refuel. No way to rearm. When the airfield goes down, the Riptides will have to clean out the Javs. A key strike there for Classicnoob. Little advantages stacking and stacking and stacking and stacking. And opShijiao, if he has not rewatched this game, is going to be kicking himself when he realizes that he could have been in such a better position. He's still keeping up with the economy of Classicnoob, and he has got himself an aircraft carrier, but an aircraft carrier that doesn't have many support craft near it. Dolphins going to be targeting it down. The EMP will fire off, but you know what? Dolphins don't care about an EMP. They're going to keep hunting that aircraft carrier. The Athena cannon lines up the shots. 3 Dolphins pay the price, but the refinery survives. The harvester survives. The aircraft carrier goes down and doesn't earn almost anything. Vindicator's returning back to the other side. Airfield, has it been rebuilt? Yes, it had. As okay, triple airfield or triple Apollo on the field. Cryocopters, always a possibility from either one of these players. But are they actually going to be going for it? Tier 3 hasn't even started for Classicnoob. He's actually at a huge tech disadvantage. Okay, Athena Cannon going to be saved there by the black hole armor of that assault destroyer. And Athena Cannon's a huge advantage for opShijiao. Classicnoob says, you know what? I'm up by 1 point in this series. I think you're out of position. Aircraft carrier moving forward. This is going to be a huge sandwich play, or it is going to be knock knock, no one's home, as this aircraft carrier gets surrounded and destroyed before the fight kicks off. No EMP to save him. What is opShijiao going to do? He's still just clearing these buildings. Doesn't he know that there's war on his doorstep? That there's a force coming to take his home? His MCV is about to get blasted. Javelins doing what they can to hold the line. Athena Cannon's a little bit too late to the party as the Riptides come in. This will either be the greatest sandwich of Red Alert 3 history or the greatest disaster of opShijiao's tournament run. The MCV getting chased off the deck and the airfield going down once again. Peacekeepers, javelins, all here supported by the black hole armor of the assault destroyer. Athena cannons, 3 of them sitting in the main base. It's chaos and carnage as the Dolphins reign supreme out on the water, and it is mass infantry rushing in against the Athena cannons, hoping to break those reinforcements. opShijiao is running for the hills. Classicnoob wants a date in the finals with DutchArmy. He's pushing through the middle of the map, surrounded on all sides as Classicnoob takes over the water, takes over the middle of the map, and chases opShijiao out of his own expansion. The army falls apart, but opShijiao is refusing to give up the fight, only now realizing that Harvester is missing as 300 Dolphins descend upon this fight. Is this even a fight the Riptides can take? This is so many Dolphins here. The Riptides fighting back 1-to-1, knocking the Dolphins down. They get the surround and they take out the Dolphins. The aquatic force has been dealt with. 5 Riptides live to tell the tale, and the army value is much closer. Cryocopters coming in. Aegis shield gets popped. Apollo's here, but they're fighting versus Apollo's on the other side. A huge fight for Classicnoob. His army gets thinned out significantly, but he does it all with Tier 1 and Tier 2 units. opShijiao has lost a lot of momentum in this game, but he's got a ragtag bag to go into the last stage. That could have been the end of the game right now. Floating $3,000 in the bank. That's a lot of cryocopters. Floating $3,000 in the bank. opShijiao does not want to give over air superiority to his opponent. Cryocopters will make his Athena cannons not useless, but not very powerful. As the freeze comes in, the Apollo gets shattered, just like opShijiao's hopes in this game. He is going to have to pull out a comeback from somewhere, and it won't be from this war factory. As the Cryocopters turn around, there's the freeze. As the IFVs go down, the defenses have fallen, and opShijiao in shambles here. As his MCV gets targeted down, I imagine he is coming to terms with this game slipping away, with this series slipping away, with Classicnoob pulling one out. There's the shrink down. No, the Vindicator bombs! They actually all get absorbed. The black hole armor was actually enough to cover that MCV, but it just doesn't matter. Classicnoob does it. He actually does it here in game number 8. He beats opShijiao. He conquers his opponent, and he will advance into the upper bracket final. A huge thank you to Tim and to MediaStorm for sponsoring this event. A big thank you to the players for participating, to Edvin, to Lian Lee, to Toolman, to the other admins over on the Battle.net side. I forgot some of their names, but a huge thank you to them as well for helping out with this event. Thank you all very much for watching. We have got the elimination video next. We're jumping down into the lower bracket, and we are going to say goodbye to 4 out of our 8 players in the next video. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and this is Cybert, signing out.